Core assets focused on the blue property, more specifically the Silver Lime and Labrador project on the blue property in BC, Canada, bordering Alaska, actually. And I'm speaking with CEO Nick Rodway. Nick, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me on, Rob. Yeah, it's the first time for me doing this type of thing, so I'm excited.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a very effective uh, tool, very easy to use, and it can be broadcast to a much larger audience afterwards. So let's start with sort of your background, how you got into the junior mining sector, how you became a CEO, just to learn a little bit more about you as a person.
Yeah, sure. So I'm from the East Coast, Canada originally, and went to university and did a Bachelor of Science in Geology. And as I was doing that, I was also working Baffin Island in Canadians North, mainly doing geophysical surveys, mag surveys, gravity surveys, and also prospecting for what's now in production, Mary River project. It's an iron ore project, but we were looking for precious metals, base metals, while they were starting to go into production. I later decided to move out to Vancouver, BC, in order to start looking at more public company stuff, early stage stuff, which is where my heart really was, and is now. So I subsequently also did a master's program at the Queen's University, more on the business side of things, specifically mining related. So that then brought me to the point where I was interested in starting to list companies publicly, either to CSE or to TSX. So I've been a director of a bunch of different companies on TSX listed companies and also CSE, and that brought me to a idea that I had that was funded by an investment company in Vancouver back in 2018, and it was basically looking for battery metals, cobalt and copper specifically, which led me to the Atlin mining district of BC, and that's where the story begins, and that was in 2018.
Okay. And then how do you come to core assets, and how does core assets come about?
So again, we were looking for ideas, and I was doing project generation. So you generally come up with you could come up with 100 different ideas, and then you try to find out which ones are the best ones. Some you'll opt off, others you'll keep for yourself. So out of say 50 different ideas that I had in BC, this core assets, it was just a project obviously, and I decided with the group that I was with that we would put it into a private company, and then we would list it on the Canadian Securities Exchange. So we started that process in 2018, and we listed, I believe, in early 2019 on the CSE. Times were equally as tough back then, maybe even tougher to raise money. But we just started doing some boots on the ground prospecting in the area, and one occurrence led to the next, following where glaciers have receded and areas that have actually never even been mapped before because of glacial cover. So we ran into these white beds of rock, which are limestone carbonate marble units, and that's where I started finding these massive sulfide occurrences that wasn't uncommon to get over a kilogram per ton silver or 50% zinc lead combined on these things. Always a copper credit. Before we knew it, we had about 500 separate occurrences that mapped out on the project, and then we raised money, and we started drilling in 2022, and so now we've had two drilling seasons now on what we call the Silver Line project, and it's only about 9,000 meters so far, and probably about 60 holes altogether. It's been very shallow drilling. Everything is located, within 100 meters basically of surface, and it's a huge, huge property as a whole. It's over 1,100 square kilometers, but specifically the Silver Line project has a superficial mineralized footprint of about 10 by 9 kilometers squared. So it's massive, and we think everything is kind of related to the same event. And we've just been characterizing it as we go here, picking away at it a little bit year by year, and we've been very, very successful with the drill bit.
Yeah, so let's dive right into it because we have 9 people on this call, but probably 500 will hear it eventually. And Core Assets was actually one of my 3 picks for the 2024 CEO.ca stock picking contest. And the reason why I picked it was multifaceted. Number one, I liked my conversations with Nick and the Core Assets team. Number two, I like the fact that they got in $3.6 million in November. And again, not an easy market to raise capital. So they didn't have any pressing financing needs. And then I just tweeted this chargeability anomaly that they published about 6 weeks, a couple months ago, the end of 2023. And this really caught my attention. Okay, so I'm not a geo, I'm an amateur geo, but I've been looking at this stuff for a long time, and I kind of know what I like to see and what I don't like to see or I don't really care about. And this caught my attention as something that I like to see. Um, so tell us more about this, this IP survey, the news you put out at the end of last year, and sort of why this is so interesting.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we were all kind of amateur geos in a way because every project we do, we learn and build on it. Of course, there's a lot of obviously testing these geophysical anomalies to find out exactly what they are. Um, we actually raised 5.6 million as well. We opened the financing for 3.6, and we had a lot of interest in it. So we ended up upsizing and closing 5.6. So our cash position now is just north of $5 million. So we're fully funded now to do our full program, no problem at all this summer. But yeah, to touch on the IP survey, that was actually a kind of mid-season of last year. It was a recommendation by our VPX to try to get some more data here and build upon the layers that we already have. Because again, you got to think like most companies have sometimes over 100 years of exploration done on these projects before they have success. And this project here was brand new, and it all started by Core Assets and myself mapping the area and then doing a mag survey, airborne mag and EM survey, and then again, just keeping building the layers here. We decided to do a 3D IP survey this year. So that survey it covered about 2.3 square kilometers of the project, and it was mainly concentrated over what we call the Peats to Galley trend. So that's a continuous area of massive sulfide that you can visibly see from surface because it's all an outcrop. There's a bit of overburden in the area, glacial till and whatnot, but there's no vegetation, and you can actually stand on the galley target, and you can look down across and actually see that there's a fold hinge coming up for over 2.3 kilometers. Probably about 3 kilometers, you can see it before the overburden gun kind of comes in. So we sampled that whole distance, that whole strike length, and we got anomalous. And but when I say anomalous, I mean 10% zinc lead plus. There's always a copper credit of about 0.3 to over 1% copper. And then again, not uncommon to get over 1,000 grams per ton silver. So when you look at the carbonate replacement deposits with a porphyry feeding them and skarn, you generally see geochemical zonation. So as you move further away from what we call the hub or the source, you generally get higher grade zinc, followed by lead and silver in the distal areas. As you move in, it goes silver, zinc, or sorry, silver, lead, zinc, copper, and molybdenum. So we very quickly, just through boots on the ground prospecting, were able to see a clear zonation pattern. So we decided to do this IP survey to look further into the chargeability, resistivity, and conductivity of the area. And we did that, and of course, our news I think came out on it was mid-December about the untested geophysical anomalies, and it showed that sure enough, there's a huge chargeability anomaly that's 80 millivolt per volt, which would be considered extremely high in the center of this trend, which is known as the Sulphide City Area. And then we also came up with some other anomalies to the north and south, and they're nowhere near, they're hundreds of meters away from where we did our drilling. And of course, again, I need to make sure, people understand that there has been no drilling, within about 25 kilometers of this area ever. So it is represents a brand new, genuine discovery.
So yeah, there's so many follow questions to that, but first one, sort of the no-brainer one. BC has seen a lot of exploration work. So has Alaska. So how could you possibly find something new that nobody has found before in this area that has been pretty active for over 100 years?
Yes, that's a good question. So Atlin is known for placer mining, so unconsolidated gold in sediments, and that was discovered back in 1890s, late 1890s, by two gentlemen actually, and it's better known as Pine Creek area. So there's a lot of mining history in Atlin itself, but we're down about 48 kilometers southwest of Atlin, down at the end of the lake. So there is one significant mineral occurrence there, which is called the Laverdiere occurrence, and that hence the name, the Laverdiere project. So there was actually an adit that was driven into the side of the mountain there with high grade copper, and this was again back in I think around 1900, so a long, long time ago. Uh, there's no real history or any documentation on where that material was brought out. But again, that was what attracted me to the area in the first place. But I think that the simple answer is that just no one went to that next valley over, and it may have been due to just glacial cover. And even in I guess I've been going up there for about 6, 7 years now. You can notice tens of meters of difference now in late August of the ice caps and glaciers there. And there's some actual ice caps that have been there when I first started going up there in 2017 that don't even exist anymore. So it's really, it's one thing to say that the glaciers are retreating, but to experience it year by year is quite unique because you can, it's for sure that they are, deteriorating and melting quite quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing some junior mining company presentations around the 2016 timeframe in BC, the Golden Triangle area, and they took pictures from the 70s and they compared it to 2016, and it was pretty noticeable. But that you're talking over 40 years. Now I mean, you're talking 7 years, and a lot of cover is gone, right?
For sure, for sure. And there's actually very good picture that is publicly available, and it's in the BC government synopsis magazine. We're actually featured on the cover of that for this year, and you can see actually like where the glacier, how much it has retreated, and it's well over, it's about 100, 200 meters that you can easily see where it's scathed, the side of the bedrock. So it's a really good picture for viewers to take a look at in that magazine.
So yeah, so let's talk about this Sulphide City deeper chargeability anomaly. Obviously, everybody knows about Hercules Silver and what happened in October of last year and how they drilled a deeper chargeability anomaly at a project that previously was thought to be just sort of a near surface lower grade silver deposit with some CRD or some skarn, but it's actually very interesting. There's copper skarn near surface. There's old adits in various areas of the property that were mined in I think the early 1900s. And the setting to your project to what they have there in Idaho is very similar. I mean, obviously it's not the same, but a lot of similarities. And I was like, hold on, this looks really interesting. So tell us about that deep-seated chargeability anomaly, what it means, what it could be in the context of what you see at surface.
Yeah, so I mean, we actually drilled a semi-deep hole at what we call the Sulphide City Area. I mean, again, this was all based just upon boots on the ground prospecting. So there's so much sulfide at surface on this project. It's unlike anything I've ever walked in my life, and that's why I knew this was special when I first started spending time on this project. And the fact that no one's ever been there before, again, it's uncanny, right, to even think that. But we did drill a hole. Hole 006 was drilled in 2022, and that went down about 465, 470 meters. And we weren't even planning on doing any like semi-deep holes or anything. We're just kind of using a prospector's approach and drilling what we could see at surface, which we were very successful. But we started to run into what they call philically altered material within about 150 meters at surface, with a lot of molybdenite in it. No chalcopyrite at this point yet, so we decided to keep drilling, and we hit numerous zones of skarn, which do have copper in them. And then down towards the 450, 460 area, our copper started to pick up. But at the time, the drill that we had there was only equipped for a certain amount of depth. And again, we weren't planning or budgeted to be doing deep holes. So without seeing a crazy amount of chalcopyrite or copper, we called the hole. And now we know, since the assays have come back and everything, that the end of that hole had 2.5% copper equivalent there, which is one of our best hits in that hole. So that hole though only breached into what you can see on that figure of our news on in mid-December there. It started to get into that around, I think, around 420 or something. So we have not even scratched the surface of that kind of goose egg structure that's registering 80 millivolt per volt chargeability. For the viewers out there, like, people always ask questions about, what is a high chargeability and low chargeability. Now, that this would be considered high, but you got to take into account the grand scheme of things, and the area that we are drilling already has very highly chargeable rocks that are registering over 11% copper at surface at Sulphide City, and over a kilogram silver as you step out. So it's hard to really know what a number really means to the chargeability. Is it chalcopyrite? Is it bornite? Is it pyrite? Like, we really don't know, but we do know that obviously the hole 006 hit a ton of sulfide, mainly pyrite and pyrrhotite. And what you'd expect to see with these porphyries is they generally have a halo of pyrite or iron-rich sulfide that surrounds the core. And once you eventually breach through that zone, you get into what's called the potassic zone. And again, it's similar to the Hercules thing as well. And I actually listened to your conversation with Chris there the other day. And on the porphyry side of things, yeah, it is a very similar thing. The only difference is that we haven't had tens of years or whatever it was with Hercules silver of work done at surface. So it takes time to characterize these things. And but our plan is to hopefully re-enter this whole 006 or one of the other ones from that pad, and try to breach down through this pyritic halo, where we're hoping to see pyrite change to chalcopyrite. So the only difference between pyrite and chalcopyrite is there's copper in the compound. And you can look up online, I guess, what different minerals and different elements have chargeabilities of, but that's is not very it's not a very good gauge, because that stuff is done in the lab setting, and we're dealing with a rock, which is a compound, composed of other compounds, minerals, and elements. So we don't exactly know why these numbers are off the Richter scale, but we know that this is not a one-off anomaly. There's several anomalies there that are massive, and we think that they're connected at depth from what we can see. And yeah, they're just screaming high, and and the carbonate replacement side of things is just one part of it. You add all these different parts of the system in, you get every part of the spectrum, which it's just very, very uncommon for a company searching for a carbonate replacement style system to not only hit carbonate replacement like we have, but also over the scale that we have. And now we don't only have indications of a porphyry beneath. We have already hit porphyry. We just haven't hit the sweet spot.
Yeah, so going back to that whole 2206 from 2022, you basically terminated the hole at a certain depth just because you weren't planning to drill a super deep hole. But you ended up finding almost a meter of 2.5% copper equivalent at near the end of the hole. Were you able to identify what carried the copper there?
Yeah, we are. It's chalcopyrite in that, and it's a heavy skarn, and again, a skarn is kind of a skin to your intrusion, so very common again to be seeing that, and there are deposits in the world that are just skarns alone. So could this be a very very large, heavily mineralized skarn skin as well on this for this porphyry? We don't really know yet. We do know that there's a heavy endowment of sulfide there. It's just again, where can we get into that heavy chalcopyrite? The pyrite should drop out completely, and then the copper comes in, and then you get your CuFeS2, which is your compound for chalcopyrite.
Yeah, so that hole was in the philic part of what could be interpreted as a potential porphyry system, but you did not see any potassic. Is that right?
That's correct in my interpretation. There has been some people look at it and think that there's a potassic overprint on it. I'm not a porphyry specialist on textures and alterations personally, but we're confident. There is mineralization in it, and again, heavy molybdenum. We did get 200 meters there. I think of 0.02% molybdenite. And again, that is something that you want to, that's a box you want to check for these CRDs. And it should help, obviously vector in. And yeah, our main takeaway is I think we just need to go a little deeper here on this Sulphide City area. And that's where we think the hub is that's producing all the juice, which spans over this 9 by 10 kilometer area.
Yeah, so instead of 450 meters, you might need to go 700. Was that?
Well, I mean, you might have to go much deeper than that to reach the core. It's important to know that. But a lot of deposits in the world, the most common kind of depth is around anywhere between 500 to 1,600 meter depth. That's generally where a lot of these actual mineable porphyries are found.
How deep did the IP survey go?
The IPE survey's confidence is good for around 650 meters. So you'll notice that all the data is kind of rounded off at the bottom of that figure, and we can probably show that figure, I guess, when we go over this talk again here. But just because it's rounded off, it doesn't mean it ends. It just means that the confidence of that survey is only good to 650. So it likely continues much further depth.
Okay, and then yeah, so I tweeted the slide and over to the so it's actually the cross section is basically looking east, so the left side of it is north and the right
Yeah.
side of it is south. To the north of Sulphide City there's another anomaly that looks pretty prominent, and it's actually, I believe it's higher chargeability. What can you tell us about that area, and what has there been any work done over there?
So I personally walked that area, and now at the Pete's area, there is a nice bit of outcrop, and it's mainly in the form of marble or limestone, and that's where we've had several grab samples, over more than several, tens of grab samples over 500 grams per ton silver, and we actually had a really great hole. We had 15 or 20, I think, great holes there this year actually. But one of the stars of the show was 6.4 meters of 5.2 ounce silver with, I believe, around 17% zinc lead and zero point 0.2 or zero point 0.3 copper. So that was about, probably about 300 meters away from this anomaly. Now, this anomaly, though, there is a fault that runs through there, and it's kind of a little bit of a dip in the elevation, so there is overburden. So there's no outcrop where that untested anomaly is. So it's going to be something that we're gonna try and go after. I mean, this is our first year ever using geophysics to guide our to guide our exploration, which is, it's funny with all the success we've already had. Every single drill pad we've ever built and put out, we generally get 50% or more success rate with our holes. So if this geophysics lines up correctly, these could be the feeders maybe to some of these carbonate replacement occurrences, and that we've both found at surface and then drilled at depth. So it's going to be another really interesting target. And again, like you said, it's off the Richter scale here with this chargeability. And we find ourselves trying to compare what we have here, numerically to other surveys, because this 3D IP survey gets done by a lot of companies in the world, and it's hard to find anything that has these numbers so high. So you know, it's very, very exciting to have these interesting targets that are not, they're, I wouldn't call them 100% like blind targets, because we actually have mineralization at surface to back them up. So it kind of checks several boxes. It's not, it's not like shooting in the dark, I don't think, anymore as we go. So
Yeah, I mean, you got smoke all over the place. I mean, at surface, you have 800 grams per ton silver, 11% copper in various areas. I mean, there's smoke everywhere. So that metal came from somewhere deeper down. It may have come from multiple places deeper down. So, now in this challenging market environment of 2023 and 2024, you guys have a few $1,000,000 in the till. That's a good start, but it doesn't last forever, and you need to be careful where you drill, especially if you're talking about going deep in some of these holes. So, what is the plan for the 2024 season? When does it start? How many meters are you going for? What are the targets? Where do you start first, et cetera, et cetera?
yeah, so I mean, for me, nothing ever really ends, So we have a full team that's on full time here of 4 geologists plus myself, and we're working every day here trying to make sure that every dollar we spend is going in the right place. But to put it in the simplest manner possible, we are planning on going back into Sulphide City, and whether we re-enter a hole or drill a new hole. Uh, we don't really know at this point, but we will be drilling back down into that anomaly and testing it out to, probably 800 to 1,000 meter depth, and see if we get into the very chalcopyrite rich stuff. And then we'll also step out then from Galley and Pete's, where we already had big time success, and we'll start drilling some of these other anomalies, which you'll see on the other figure in that news release that shows our 3D chargeability and conductivity trend. So if you look at the bottom of that diagram in particular, it shows how the conductivity actually fills in some gaps here where we were drilling, and it's very continuous, which is interesting. And again, I haven't really been a part of something that where everything kind of lines up so nicely, even after you drill and have success. So it's it's quite it's quite unique in that way. But the $5 million that we have allocated for this program, I mean, it's going to go a long ways, and we it's hard to know when you start doing these deep holes, how many holes or how many meters you're going to do. But last year I think we had just over 3 million, and we did just over 4,500 meters, just to give you an idea. Most of that stuff was, again, around 100-meter depth, probably average of 125 meter. So all the carbonate replacement stuff is so near surface, you're drilling these holes. It takes only about 2 shifts generally to get these holes done. Our rock is very competent in the area. We've never lost a hole or anything like that. We're very lucky with that. A very good competent ground compared to some places and down the states and stuff. So we should be able to hopefully get somewhere between 3,000 to 5,000 meters here with what we got.
So you're going to use one core rig, is that right?
Correct.
And you're going to start in June, I assume?
Yeah, we'll be up there in June for sure. Probably mid-May even to prepare, and then we use the lake to barge materials over to the project, so that really cuts down on costs for us. It gets us within about 12 kilometers from the actual project, so it really saves money on we don't have to sling our fuel and everything 48 kilometers across. And again, we're all based in a hotel in the town of Atlin, where we have a little, we have a kitchen and stuff built there from last year, and then we also have our core facilities and everything, just basically right in the town of Atlin. So it's very, very easy to get there. You and I can leave Vancouver at 8 a.m. in the morning, and we can get to the project by lunchtime. No problem at all.
All right, so I want to open the floor. If somebody has a question for Nick, CEO of Core Assets, please ask to speak, and I'll open your speaker mic. Um, so my question, Nick, I don't want to pin you down too much on timelines and turnaround for assays and stuff, but is it fair to state that your first hole will be the reentry of that hole 6 and trying to push it deeper into that anomaly?
Well, I can't guarantee you that it'll be, specifically 006. There's several other ones there that you can see in that diagram there as well, that could be re-entered. I mean, all of them could be re-entered. But it will be from that location. Will be the first hole. Yeah.
Okay, so most likely you'll drill several holes from that same pad. Is that correct?
It's probably a good chance for sure. And again, we're going to be calling it as we go here. So we really don't know. Just like anyone now, we don't know what we're going to encounter in this. But I'm expecting to see quite a bit of sulfide, whether that's going to be pyrite or chalcopyrite. And we already know that there's heavily veined porphyry down there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hopefully we see some more concentrations of chalcopyrite and then some bornite would be really nice. Um, and then so the untested anomaly that's closer to surface at the northern end near Pete's, that's for later in the drill program. Is that correct?
That's correct. That will be followed up probably after the Sulphide City stuff is done. And again, I guess it comes down to what we're seeing and what the budget is looking like. And again, what will the actual environment of the whole market look like at that time? Will there be money flowing back in big time and big time interest? All that stuff obviously comes into play too with my decision making.
Okay. And I guess just final question. I mean, I think this is a very exciting drill program. That's why I picked it as one of my 3 for 2024. And I love the porphyry theme. I feel like, these sorts of projects can give the right kind of metals that the world needs over the next couple of decades, and they offer the potential scale that a larger mining company would be interested in. If you can have some joy with the drill, if you can find something new that could show potential scale, these things can really grab the market's attention, as we saw with Big Dot V and Barrick coming in. So final question. I know you got to hop, Nick. Final question. Can you tell us a little bit about the share structure of the company? Who are the biggest shareholders? And what does management own, et cetera, et cetera?
Sure. So I personally own about 5% of the company. There's 127 million out right now, fully diluted. I believe it's closer to 160 fully diluted. Crescat is one of our bigger investors as well. I think last time I checked, they own between 10 and 15% of the company. Management as a whole own about 16% of the company. And yeah, I mean, like you said, we decided to raise money before Christmas. The year before, we actually waited in anticipation for things to get a little more positive, which, as you know, did not really happen. So this year we decided to, pull the trigger early, and we're very thankful now that we have, money in the bank because a lot, as you know, a lot of the companies at this point are going out having to raise and dilute. Their share count, obviously. So yeah, I mean, I can't wait to get up there and start drilling this again. It's easily the most exciting program I've ever been a part of. So can't wait.
Great. We have one question from the audience, and then I'll let you go to your next call. Kaiser Soze, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask Nick a question.
Hi, Robert. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you, Nick. I'm a shareholder, and I have a question. Do you plan to? I know it's very it's the beginning of the project in the early stage, but do you plan to sell the project? I know Brixton, more in the south, BHP came in and take 20% stake in the company. Do you plan to have like kind of GV big partner or something like that, or do you want to go with Crescat? And I know I don't remember the other company that give you big money, but do you plan to have a big GV like that with a big company? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for the question there, Kaiser. I mean, the way I've been asked that question many, many times, what my plan would be, and I guess I can give you, it's kind of a dream, I guess, is more than anything. And yeah, it would be great to, have a partner come in and help us out a little bit with this, or, again, have a major take some real interest and, either finance us or, make an offer and buy the project out. But that is not really up to me. Like I can't just pick and choose if I want a major to do that or not. It would be certainly great, and we would, love to. We would definitely talk terms on something like that. But at this very point, I mean, I don't know what the opportunity would be with that at the very moment. But yeah, I mean, we're always open to it, but it's up to those companies kind of to approach us, which some have, of course, with interest in CAs, confidentiality agreements and whatnot at this point. So we do have, some of those currently in motion. But to tell you what the plan is, I mean, in an ideal world, yeah, we'd love to have a bigger partner come in and help us. And I think that this is a district scale project, and I think that any major would be very, very happy and excited to be a part of something that is this early stage, but yet possesses all the parts of the spectrum of a carbonate, skarn, and CRD porphyry system. And it's definitely a one of a kind thing for Canada, if not North America, to find something like this. So yeah, I mean we can't wait, and obviously open to any suggestions also, and love to have another group come in and join us.
Great. Nick, thanks a lot. I'm going to let you hop to your next call. I really appreciate this conversation, and I look forward to the next one and this summer's drill program. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. Have a good one, everyone.
Cheers. Bye.